Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you are kicking it with GFAMunited, a spot that's all about inspiring you to be salt and light. So without further ado, let's make it do what it do. Hit it. What up, fam? Welcome back. So check it. So the older you get, the more you start learning about yourself. You start realizing why you do what you do, why you respond the way you respond, why your mannerisms are the way that they are. These past few years, I've been learning a little bit more about myself. Not anything crazy or big, just small little things. For example, I started realizing for me that the words that I chose really mattered to me. It wasn't a big deal, but like my wife, I remember a couple years ago, my wife said, no, it ain't a couple years ago. Last year, my wife was like, we had a big family trip we were doing to Disney. And she was like, yo, babe, we're gonna be going to Disney in a couple weeks. Like, are you excited? My response to her was like, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Because I don't really say I'm excited. I don't know why. It's just it's not something I say. So the moment I know someone wants me to say I'm excited, I instantly feel like, bro, are you really excited about it? Because if you're not excited about it, you can't be saying you're excited about it. So for me, I say either I can't wait or, bro, I'm really looking forward to it. It's just something I realize about myself. I'm very picky about the words that I choose because I have to feel like I find some type of truth in those words. So my thing is, I'm really looking forward to it. Well, tonight is one of those nights that I'm really looking forward to it. I was going to open up and say, yo, guys, I'm so excited. And then I felt like, bro, are you really going to say that? Because you normally wouldn't say that. So what I'm going to say is, bro, I'm really looking forward to tonight's episode. It might be the morning time for you, the afternoon, nonetheless. I'm really looking forward to today's episode with our guest for today. Today's guest is my brother in Christ. It is my homie in the Lord. It is my pastor, my friend, none other than Mr. Jonathan Hernandez. Some people call him Pastor John, Pastor Johnny. Other people call him PJ. Some even call him Kid Envision, yo.
I mean, yeah,
AKA
if they
Kid.
go back, yeah, absolutely.
It's John. Welcome to the pod, man.
Oh, man, I'm excited to be here, and I have no problems using that word. I am also looking forward to it, but I'm excited, man. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited about kind of the podcast and all the things that God's been doing. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah,
me too, man. So I figured, man, what would be dope is we both did youth ministry, and you tend to always open up the night with a game. I'm not a big game guy, yo. So anyone that knows me that's watching this knows this is out of character. But for me, it's a fun game, and it does not require us to be goofy in any way, which I love. So it's a game I just made up. I told Dom, yo, keep score. All
right.
We're working together, so we're not against each other. It won't be like bowling.
2 pins, bro. It was 2 pins.
Remember what in the famous words of Dominic Toretto, an inch or a mile. But, okay, so this is a game. So 2 words. It's going to be 2 words that we use.
Yeah.
We're going to change up this scenario because these 2 words are interchangeable.
Okay.
And in different scenarios, those 2 words take on a totally different meaning.
Okay.
So what we'll do is I'll start. I'll give us the context of this scenario, and then I'll use those 2 words and explain how those 2 words mean in this case. The 2 words are, you're going to be familiar with it, you good.
Okay.
You good.
You good.
So this is what we'll do. So we'll start the first one off. So here's the scenario. The scenario is I'm out about in the crowd. I notice you from a distance. I haven't seen you in a minute.
Yeah.
I come up, I dap you up, and I'm like, yo, man, you good? What I'm saying is, how are you?
Doing? Yeah.
So that's one way in which we could use the word you good. What's another scenario you can think of in which we could use those words?
We're playing basketball. You swipe for a ball, and I cross you up. And as I'm laying the ball up nicely against the glass, I notice that you're grabbing for your ankle. And I might turn around and say, you good? How you think I mean that?
Moving along. He's talking about Dominic, by the way. Okay, so we breaking bread. We eating this Wednesday night family dinner, and we chopping it up. I'm about finishing up on my food. I go up. I'm gonna get a refill of some sort. I look at you and like, yo, you good? I'm asking you, you need anything?
Yeah.
What you got?
Okay, so all right. Here's the situation. Your car's pulled over. There's another car in front of you. I end up pulling up behind you. I get out the car. I notice there's a little tension between you and the other driver. I try to kind of calm things down. I'm trying to figure out what's going on, and I give you that look like, yo, you good? Right? Like I'm saying in that moment, like, you all right? Or we're gonna have to scrap.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to step to this guy.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
We like round 4 already.
Yeah. Okay. So I do something to disrespect you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, my bad, man. And then you respond to me as, you good.
Yeah.
Meaning, it's okay.
Apology accepted.
Yeah. You got another one you can think of?
Oh, man. Let me think.
Why you thinking I'm thinking?
Oh, man. I don't know, man. I don't know. This one's it's starting to get hard. It's starting to get it's starting to get a little tough. You know, we walk up into the same spot. I accidentally trip and step on your shoe. And you look up and you're like, you good? There's that little hint of anger.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the same breath, you know, it's like, you good? You good?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, in that same vein, might be a little slightly different. Stranger.
Yeah.
Walks up on me, and he steps on my J's. He got a little attitude in the way he says it, in the way he does it, almost like I shouldn't have been in his way.
Yeah.
So I look at him like, yo, you good?
Yep.
Like, do we got a problem here? Not that we advocate doing that, but that's another
Sounds
way.
like we advocate a lot with these.
I just know theoretically how it's been used.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm tapped out though.
Yeah.
It's a really flexible phrase.
Yeah. It's so funny. I remember seeing, man, it was a couple months ago where this video started circulating on IG and I think even TikTok, even though I don't mess with TikTok. And man, it was an Asian dude that was going through the list and had me rolling because I was like, he's spot on. He's nailing them all. It's funny. So today's episode has nothing to do with you good. It's the 3rd episode and it's entitled Dream. So Dream, this is the first segment of a 3-part segment. Every episode I wrap it up with the phrase, dream the dream that God has placed inside of you. Live the life that he has called you to, and love the way he loves you.
Yeah.
And I wanted to focus in this segment really breaking down what those 3 words mean. So this episode is strictly about the word dream. I think the word dream is very much like you good in the fact that it can be used in so many different ways, depending how you use it and how you've grown up with the word dream. I was looking in the dictionary and it says different ways it could be is a dream come true. You have the American dream. You have the dream team. You have the pipe dream, the daydreamer. You got the dream chasers. Like each one kind of has a different understanding of how that word is used. And today I kind of just wanted to not debunk anything, but to kind of elaborate more that when I say, man, dream those dreams that God has placed inside of you, moving forward, if you're still running with us, like you know exactly what it is that I'm saying. Do you remember in school when you were growing up, elementary school specifically, I remember being asked, what do I want to be when I grow up? Or what do you dream of being when you grow up? And they put a piece of paper and crayons and Sharpies, whatever, probably not Sharpies, not elementary school, but color pencils in front of you. And they wanted you to draw what it is that you hope to be, dream to be when you grow up. You remember doing that?
Oh, absolutely. And it was always a superhero.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
always a superhero. It was never like a cop or a fireman. I know there's that's some people's story,
Yeah.
but no, it was always like Spider-Man or Superman or Hulk, whichever one I was
Yeah.
into at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Mine was hands down Superman. But then I remember the teacher being a little bit more adamant to move past that. And I did chose a cop.
Yeah.
I chose a cop because, like, my pops was a cop. He worked in the jail system. I always thought it's cool to be that guy, to, step up for those in need, to help protect. So I feel like a cop was one of the things that I, since they already planted that thought in my mind,
Yeah.
dream to be or hope to be when you get older, it was that.
It was also for me. It became when it was real. It became artist. Like I've always
Yeah.
wanted to draw. Probably because when they gave me the piece of paper and a pencil,
Yeah.
I was a little elaborate in my
He was
drawing.
better than everyone. Everyone was like, yo, this guy is so good.
But it was always something creative. That was always my bent for sure.
I feel like all throughout our childhood and our adolescence, we've been asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? As you get older, the question changed to, what do you want to do with your life?
Yeah.
A pretty hefty question, weighty question to be asked in elementary, middle school, even high school at times. What do you want to be? What do you hope to be? What do you dream to be? And then when you get into like college, the weight is, you better know what you want to be because you're spending a lot of money now.
Absolutely. Which is challenging for an 18-year-old who still hasn't formulated a plan. I know it was for me at least.
Yeah. It was, I could, like with my kids, I try to let them know, listen, at 18, you're not going to have all this figured out.
Yeah.
Start figuring out what you're good at, what you enjoy doing, and then kind of work on that, and then present it before the Lord and see what unveils. But I feel like at a young age, we were just taught that we got that much authority to decide what we want to do with our lives.
Absolutely.
And that only becomes a problem when you're an adult, you realize that's not as easy as that, what I want to
No.
be. I got bills. I ain't got time for dreams. And that's kind of a scary place to be at as well. An adult that says, I don't got time for that. I just got to pay the bills. I feel like a thought like that, a thought pattern like that, or a lifestyle can bring you to, if you're not careful, a very bitter place where you kind of resent life. And you resent anyone that does want to go out and try to reach goals because you feel like, I don't have the luxury of doing that. I got bills to pay.
Yeah.
So I think it's challenging when I think about that growing up. Like you're an adult now, you're like, it's not that easy. And then I think about for a person that decides to surrender their life to the Lord. They've been taught all the way up to that point, whatever point that is for them. What do you want to do with your life? What is your dreams? Pursue your dreams. Protect your dreams and so forth. And now you're being told as you surrender your life, where if you want the life he has for you, you got to lay down everything, your dreams, your desires, your plans.
Yeah.
It has to go all before the Lord. And you have to decide whether or not you trust him, that he is good, and that if it is his will, that he will grant you what your heart desires, or you wait and see what his stamp of approval is on. So I feel like that's very challenging for us now.
Yeah, I think challenging in several ways because I think sometimes we have a hard time distinguishing the difference between dreams and plans.
Yeah.
And often our plans are motivated by our dreams. And yet when we read scripture, we hear this context that, when God approaches plans, he says, I know the plans I have for you. Mm-hmm. What it creates is this idea that God does have a plan. And if plans are motivated by a dream, that means that there's a dream in the heart of God waiting for you.
Yeah.
That he's ascribed plans to. And the question is, have you tapped into that dream? And to your point, when you kind of live your whole life hearing, you need a dream, you need a dream, you need a dream, because eventually you need to make a plan, you need to make a plan, you need to make a plan.
Yeah.
And then you come into this radical relationship with this Savior who changes everything. And, Paul writes, I'm this living sacrifice. I'm giving everything to him. What does it now look like to pursue his dream, to find his plan?
Yeah, that's good. That whole process, I feel like, is so tough. And I think it's supposed to be because it's the image of dying to myself, trusting that he is enough, trusting that he is good. And oftentimes we determine how good he is by what he allows us to experience in this life. So if he doesn't come through when we hope, or if our dream does not unveil the way we hoped it to, or when it was supposed to come through, then we allow that to be a reflection of how good he is.
Oh, that's
and
good.
that's dangerous for us in our faith.
Well, I think where we struggle is that a lot of times our success in life is dictated by comparison.
Yeah.
And yet when you read scripture, you have young men and young women finding God's plan early on in life and doing incredible things. But you also find old men and old women finding God's plan for their life and doing incredible things. And sometimes that's an immediate issue. Sometimes those plans and dreams happen over generations.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have men and women of faith. That's why I love reading through Hebrews. Men and women of faith who never saw the extent of what that dream and plan unfolded like.
Yeah.
And they'll only appreciate it on the other side of eternity. And yet, again, because we're so stuck in comparison mode, when we grab a hold of the plan that God has for us, a lot of times the joy of that plan is robbed when we're looking at other people and comparing.
Yeah. Especially if I think we're seeking the results, the final destination.
Yeah.
Because when I read Hebrews, and it's still hard for me to see, and so many of them kept their faith but never saw it. I'm like, I remember in different stages of my life, I was like, no, that is not acceptable. Like, I had the faith, I endured, I struggled. Someone else gets to see it and not me. Like, man.
But the key to that is they didn't see it on this side of eternity.
Yeah.
And we're such temporary beings. We can't get our mind around that we get to spend forever basking in the glory of the Savior. And that's the reward. You know, I've won, I've finished a race. I've won the good fight. Like that's the rewards on the other side. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. But to your point, it's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah. So going back, because you kind of alluded to this in one of your responses, did you ever have a dream of becoming something specifically when you were younger?
So for a while it was art, and that's what I wanted to do. From a real practical place, like the dream that the Lord kind of laid out for me had less to do with occupation and more to do with character. Now that's when I got serious, you know, so within the scope of me getting serious with my relationship with the Lord, I had really good mentors who were okay with me deciding I wanted to be a radio host or a rapper or a pastor, but they were more concerned with, are you going to be a good dad? Are you going to be a man of God in conviction? Are you going to lead your family well? But there was definitively a point where I started sensing that the dream that God had for me led me to occupational ministry. But that was later on in life, bro. Like the truth is I allowed the reason it took me so long is because I allowed some of the kind of environmental things around me, being the son of a pastor, wanting nothing to do with the pastorate, wanting nothing to do with working at a church because of the way that I saw some of the, you know, when you work so close to something, you see it at all angles. So it was anything art, and I loved computers. So graphic design seemed to be the path. But I remember when the dream was revealed really clearly. I was teaching graphic design at the collegiate level, loving it, and had a conversation with an older lady who, you know, was taking the class for some random reason. She was in her 60s, 70s. She didn't need the money, and she was just frustrated every day. And finally, I just asked her, I'm like, why do you want to be here? And her response was, my husband died. My kids are out for my money. I don't have any family. I go home to a broken house. And I just felt the compelling of the Spirit of God to share the gospel with this lady, but I couldn't because I was a teacher. So I was like, hey, let's go get some coffee. And I went to a Dunkin' Donuts and shared the gospel. And, you know, we prayed together, and I'm driving home, and I felt the Spirit of God just reveal, I want to do this with the rest of your life if you let me. That was the day that I knew what the dream was. Yeah. So, that was kind of my journey. What about you?
Yeah. It's funny because, like, even thinking about this, like, I don't I don't recall really saying, man, it's my dream to do this or to do that.
Yeah.
Or to be this or be that. But I was a little bit more familiar with a sense of being called.
Yeah.
So like when I was younger, I liked to draw. I drew on my walls. I had the whole Lion King mural on my bedroom wall when I was younger. And, then my family came in and told me how demonic that was because of the Rafiki the monkey. And needless to say, I had to paint over that. And as I got older, like art, graphics, like the idea of logos really grabbed my attention. So when I was in high school, I was bivocational, so I got to go to a technical college for half the day to do computer graphics, and finished the first year. It was dope. It was a little bit more boring because there was more coding and like basic stuff, and I was like, man, this is not what I thought. But they promised me next year would get better, and I remember sitting at the desk. And the professor was calling people in one at a time into their office, basically trying to see if they wanted to re-enroll for next year. And I was listening to Fred Hammond at the time on my computer. It's so funny because I used to love Fred Hammond. And
who doesn't like Fred Hammond?
Yeah, No Weapons, man. And
you gonna start singing it?
Yeah, that's one of my jams, yo.
He'd start singing.
He would sing it, man. We might have to do that for Fight Camp. No Weapons.
Let's go.
And I remember, it was the funniest thing. I remember listening to that song, and it was a song, I can't even remember what song it was. It was one that I always listened to. And at that moment, I know it was about to be my turn to go into the office because I just saw students going. It was coming close to me. And the Lord literally spoke to me through that song.
Yeah.
It was clear as day. If you do anything other than what I called you to do, like, you will never feel complete.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I was so like freaked out. I started the song over again. original layout.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get no clearer than that than hearing an audible voice of the Lord. So I went into the office and, she's asking me, do you want to enroll? And I'm giving her way too much information. Like, no, I feel called to full-time ministry. Like, I won't be coming back next year. And I actually took that as advantage to kind of step into the Bible club at the high school and get more involved. The funny thing was I remember sharing that in my Sunday school.
Oh, yeah? Who was the teacher?
It was your boy Todd, man.
Todd Geary, one of my favorite Sunday school teachers for all the wrong reasons.
Dude,
he was the funniest dude ever. Still is.
He was I wish I felt at that moment I understood what the Bible meant when they said, don't give your pearls to swine. He looked at me sideways, them eyebrows scrunched, and he looked at me like, what are you talking about? Like, there's no way that happened. And I get it. It's surreal. It seems crazy. Like, I just remember what I remembered.
Yeah. I find people when they've had ministry experience and ministry life.
Yeah.
So Todd grew up in that world. I think a lot of times, there's some men of the faith that when I turn around and say, man, this is what God revealed to me.
Yeah.
Looked at me sideways like, no, bro, you're making too much money. You're on your way. At that point, I was 1 year out of school and teaching at the collegiate level. Like, it's tough for them to see because they know the pain of what's coming.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are like, slow it down. But I think it's fascinating, though, John, that both of us, neither one of us were sleeping when the dream was revealed.
Yeah.
I think it's important because I think we hear the word dream and we instantly think sleep.
Exactly.
Although there's some really great stories in Scripture.
Yeah.
But I do think that not only does God work through that, sometimes he works through music, sometimes he works through a conversation, sometimes he works through mentors.
Yeah. It was crazy. So let me ask you this then. Being lead pastor, so you're lead pastor now of Center City Church in Charlotte. Come check us out.
Come on, centercity.church.
After all that was said and done, like, do you look back on that and say that was a dream come true? Like, I don't know if that was something you've always dreamed of. Is this something you hoped for?
That's a great question. I think, again, that God is more interested in obedience than he is with titles. Mm-hmm. So to say dream come true means I'm done, and I'm not done. And I'm not done because of who I am. I'm not done because of who he is and how he continues to form and shape me. One of the things that I promised myself, and this is just me, so this isn't a prescription to anybody who's in ministry. This is just me. growing up in ministry and watching men and women like step ladder their way through ministry. They're junior high pastor for a little while, and then it's like, oh, it's time I need to become the senior youth pastor.
Yeah.
And then, oh, it's time I'm going to become the adult associate pastor. There's never a position that I was in that I wouldn't be happy. And I know this seems like a morbid prayer request or prayer, but often it was, God, I'll die happy here if this is where you want me.
Yeah.
So to say dream come true kind of insinuates that there's a finality to what I'm doing, and I don't think he's done. Now, I love what I'm doing right now, and I love what God is using us to build. I love the people that he's surrounding us with. And I could say that it's like a dream come true because I never thought I'd be in this position. Yeah. But with that said, I know the God that I serve well enough to know, man, we're just scratching the surface. My life verse that my mom kind of wove in me is, no eye has seen, no ears heard, no mind can conceive what God does through those who love him. I don't think that there's a finality to that. I think till the grave. And we talk about this. We've talked about this from time to time. My goal, my dream is that when I get to the other side of heaven, I'm walking through broken like I gave everything I had. Yeah. You know, everything I had to raise this family, everything I had for the sake of your ministry, and not because I figured out the way, but because I've followed after your dream. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of where I feel like I am.
So I think to piggyback on that, and it might be an overlap. Like, what has been your experience with dreaming, having dreams, or even being around dreamers?
Yeah.
Like, what has been your experience with that?
So I love being around dreamers because I've always been attracted to those stories, even the biblical stories, like David stepping on the field and being like, that giant's talking about who? Yeah. Like that. Yeah. There's just this Joseph, which I'm sure we'll talk about at one point. Moses looking at a Red Sea and being like, let's get it done. Like, I love the dreamer. So my experience around that is it's challenging sometimes to be around dreamers. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes, men and women who live with their head in the clouds are tough to get their feet on the ground. Yeah. But I've also, for the last umpteen years of my life, served men, in particular in leadership roles as an associate pastor, where I loved helping their dreams come to light. Like you said, like branding and logos. And, I've always been able to put visual to what people are thinking. So I love that part of it. I think there is a tendency sometimes to glorify dreaming. Yeah. I am a huge proponent, and you know this because you're around me a little bit. I'm a systems guy. I love that you have a dream. If you don't have a system, I'm saying you're not a good shepherd of that dream, not a steward of that dream. But that's, I'm quick for guys to say, I want to do this. Awesome. How are we doing that? What's your next step? What's the 5 next steps? Okay, you got those 5 next steps down. What's the next 10 steps after that? How are you measuring that? Stop telling people what you're going to do if you're not willing to measure the success of that. That's kind of how I navigate through dreaming. Yeah,
I feel like it can be challenging too because, it's easy to categorize yourself as a dreamer, and you want to do a Boys and Girls Club, and you want to do a after school outreach, retreat, dance studio, rap studio. Like, I think it's easy to just say all that and then categorize yourself as I'm a dreamer. And I think there has to be a track record that like God is on that. Or you're just like some of the leaders I've seen that you just want to do something significant. Yeah. There's not a lot of things I would put in that dream category. I would definitely put that experience that I had in my high school, emerge when we did a church plant. I knew as I got older, my audience would change. So I knew I wasn't going to always be a youth pastor. I think I still had some more years in my belt for youth ministry.
You could be a youth pastor right now.
I think so too, man. But I don't know if I have the
energy,
ability to late nights. I don't know if any youth pastor still likes that.
You just need a good team, bro. You could kill it right now.
But I remember with that, like I felt I felt it was gonna be something God moved me to. But it was funny because I never wanted to plant.
Yeah.
I didn't want to start something new. Lord, let me walk into something that's established, and then I'll change the color of the wall and, do what changes needed to be done. But everything he was pointing us to was to starting something that wasn't done.
Yeah.
And it was going to be way more work trying to strip something down to the bare bones and then try to teach them a new way of thinking and a new way of ministry. And so as much as I did not want to do church planning, we did church planning. And to see all that God did with such a small team and such a team of like ragtag misfits. Like I probably had the most experience on the team, which is not is not the greatest. I would have loved to have a few more. So I would put that in there because I was just clear as day.
Yeah.
And then Charlotte would be the second thing. I remember going through a season where I was just white knuckling it, wanting to stay faithful, and I didn't even know what that meant. I just stay faithful to you, Lord, and please come through. And it took me forever to write that the goal and the dream is Charlotte. That's all I wrote in my journal one time. I had no idea what that meant besides the natural getting into that city. I felt like I would just naturally connect. I felt like I would just be better understood and better used. I've always felt like what I brought to the table was I always felt like it's important. But when you bring something to the table and everyone's like, wow, that's cool, but like what you're bringing, like we really don't have a place for that. Like that was tough to be there, for everyone to tell you how valuable what you brought is to the table, but they had no way how to use it.
No space for it.
I just knew when I would visit Charlotte with Marilyn at times, like I just knew, man, this would work. So I put that under like a dream that came to pass that I'm living in now because of just trusting the author to the big picture. So talking about dreams specifically for tonight, when I think of dreamers, when I think of dreams in the Bible, I naturally think of Joseph. Like he's one of the iconic people we think of, and there's so many different views. You got some people that really felt like, oh, Joseph was so just conceited and spoiled, and he was bragging in front of his brothers, and I guess I get where they're going. I never saw it that way because I guess I wasn't looking into that lens. I saw a man who did not ask for a dream, was given a dream.
Yeah.
Didn't fully understand, because if he understood how upset his brothers would be, he probably was smart enough not to open up that dream to them, especially knowing where it would have led him. But I think the excitement of feeling like God has given me something and he's allowing me to be a part of something, the excitement, he shared it with his family. And they weren't the greatest fans of that story, that dream that he shared. So I naturally always think of Joseph as what it means to receive a dream and then to pursue it. I don't know if you was going to add to that because I saw you busting open that word and I said, oh, okay.
Well, I think you're right in that I think we have a tendency of trying to, and we do this with all the scripture, we have a tendency of casting judgment on some of these characters. But the truth is, if you woke up tomorrow and God laid out an amazing dream, the first people you're telling is your family.
Yeah.
Whether you feel like it's haughty or not, I don't think he fully understood the translation.
Yeah, I don't see how he could
I think
have.
it's his brothers who like, oh, so you think you're going to be our king? Oh, yeah, I guess that's what the dream means, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he fully understood the gravity of it. No, it's a great story.
Yeah. Like I believe also dreams come from desires that God places in our hearts. That's why for me, I think it's so important. Again, I'm not a dream expert, and I wouldn't even put myself in a category or in a room full of people that are dreamers. Like that wouldn't be me. I'm the guy who, Lord, if you want to give me a dream, a vision, by all means, I'm here. I don't have that same drive to search out one or ask God to give me one. I've always had this posture with the Lord. When he wants me to know, he'll let me know.
Yeah.
And it by no means has it ever been passive. It's just, I think it's always been just a confidence that I know he's going to speak. And when he chooses to speak, he'll speak. But I do believe that there are desires that God places within us that lead us to the dreams that he's placed within our hearts. So when I look at Joseph, here you have a guy who the dream was way bigger than him. He couldn't even fully fathom it. That dream became the vision to his life that helped him through the pitfalls, the darkest seasons of his life. He clung to a dream that God gave him, and thankfully through all his trials and his faithfulness allowed those around him to be blessed and fortunate, because again, had he not been faithful to that dream, what would have happened to the city? Especially during the fathom, what would have happened to his brothers, to his father? Like they were able, God used Joseph to keep his family alive, and so many countless people, simply because he chose to believe a vision or a dream that had nothing to do with making him the guy.
Yeah.
And that was kind of incredible to see someone who was like, man, I don't dream to be the guy. I'm discovering what this is, and I'm following it, and it brought me through some deep, dark places in my life. I'm not pursuing this, but I'm staying faithful to it. And it was just, I think, a selfless picture of someone pursuing a dream that doesn't seem like the self-centered version that sometimes if we're not careful, we can run after.
Yeah, I think it's also important to remember that Joseph didn't receive an incredible amount of clarity in that dream.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the dream was, hey, you're going to be sitting next to Pharaoh's side. There's going to be a famine. You're going to single-handedly save not just Egypt, but the children of God. Like, your family legacy and eventually the offspring of the Savior of the world is going to come through your obedience. That wasn't a dream. It was strange. It was weird. It was imaging.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think God is faithful to speak if we're faithful to listen. And when we lean in and trust God for what he says, it does bring us through those moments, even when we're not fully sure of what that dream is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And I think it's important, I think even in this context of this conversation, like, I'm not saying you can't have hopes, you can't have dreams. I believe it's a good thing. I think it benefits the body, it benefits our world when you have people that are, one, making themselves just accessible to the Lord to receive dreams, two, having the faith to own that dream, to follow that dream, especially in the midst of hardship. Like, it's not for the faint of heart. But I think it's so that we understand the healthy placement of it all. Like, a dream given to you from the Lord is all about furthering his kingdom, his will, his big picture.
I think that's the critical aspect of this all, because we keep hearing and using the phrase, like, God's going to give you desires, like the desires of your heart. But remember, the day you come to the saving knowledge of Jesus, a part of that is the surrendering over of your heart. So when we surrender our heart over, he begins to change even our tastes, our palate. Like, our heart gets rewired. And in that rewiring of our heart, of course, he's going to birth in us desires. That's why when I even talk to younger people and they're like, God gave me this desire, I have this desire. Or better yet, if people are like, hey, I don't know what I want to do with my life, I don't know what God's dream for me is, and I ask questions like, so what do you like? I'm not saying what do you like because you were born, like, in your flesh, you're going to figure out what God's plan is. But if you're truly a man of God, he's rewired your heart. He's placed some things in there that are good. Yeah. That are good. And it's okay to pursue those things, because then he turns around and says that he's going to give you the desires of your heart. Well, that's a heart that's surrendered to him. Yeah. Yeah. So have you ever had a dream that you felt you had to lay down before the Lord? Like, something that was good, something that seemed like this is a God thing. Like, it seems like a God thing. And you had to lay it down. And
and it did not come back. It was laying down and never to be seen again.
Yeah, it was to be a dad. My wife and I struggled for over 15 years trying to conceive naturally. And nothing, bro.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm navigating not just my dreams, but her dreams, because she's always dreamed of being a mom. Like that's it. Jess is the oldest of several siblings. And to the point that some of her younger siblings in seasons would call her mom when they were really young because she spent so much time looking after them. You know?
Yeah.
So it was almost, it just was obvious to anyone who knew Jess that was her heart and God's plan. And for 15 years, bro, it's funny because you have a plan. I love it that we plan and God laughs a little bit, and His ways are higher than our ways. So we had a plan, and everything we tried. And it's funny, well-meaning people, you need to pray more. Is there something that you are not doing that God wanted you to do? Maybe He hasn't released that yet. Is there sin that you're not revealing? Like, we walked through all of that. Counseling. We spent thousands of dollars in treatments. And the last treatment we did, the doctor literally looked at us before the treatment. It's like, hey, we ran the numbers. We did all the processes. There's nothing that wouldn't guarantee that you'd be pregnant. And he said, I've never said that to anybody before. Only for 3 weeks later for us to get a phone call and him say, I don't know what happened, but it didn't take. I still remember, man, that phone call in the car. It was a Wednesday night right before youth ministry. Me and Jess in the car, the phone's on speaker, to hear the doctor basically say, I don't know what's going on. We can't come to the conclusion of why you're not getting pregnant. And a brokenness in me, because I don't know what to say next to my wife. I've said everything I know to say. I've exhausted everything. And to hear her say, I don't know what God's doing, but I know He's here. And right now, that's enough. I was still a blubbering mess.
Yeah.
Hugged her, kissed her on the head. We drove to youth ministry where I had 3 or 4 16-year-old girls who were pregnant. I had a wedlock, right? Mm-hmm. And it was a dream we had to lay down. Now, with that said, the minute we laid it down, within 3 months, we have this incredible adoption story. But I think for some people, they're like, oh, well, that means the dream came true. I love our adoption story, but we've never naturally conceived. So there's still that part. We just, we're both now a little, well, at least I am not too old, but we moved along a little bit in life. It is what it is. We have 2 beautiful boys that we absolutely love that, bear our name, bear the mark of God on their lives. Like we love being parents. But with that said, it was a dream we had to die to. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I think you can attest to it better than anyone. Just how even God would use a scenario like that to bring hope and healing to other people who hear that. I think people who want to have children of their own, to hear that, I could imagine the weight that comes off of them by just getting a glimmer of hope to see someone who loves the Lord, serves the Lord, family's all about God, struggled, broken by it, and still gets to see God do something that wasn't what we originally thought He would do, and still give God praise. Like, doesn't blame God. Like, I think, I just feel like what a testament that is to God and His hand upon you when you're able to share that. And I think that's the other part to dreams, that if it goes back to Hebrews, where it's like, if you start something but you don't get to fully see it.
Yeah.
Like when I think of the church plant, every year I still celebrate the thing.
Yeah.
But like I'm the only one. Like I'm the only one that ever like no one's ever really said anything to me about it. Maybe it's better that way. I don't know. But for a season, I felt like I lost a son.
Yeah.
When I did it, and here I am thinking, I didn't look for this. I wasn't trying to start anything.
Yeah.
I put myself in the most awkward, uncomfortable position because I'm not an extrovert. I had to keep talking to people and trying to get a team. We did all this. I saw so much good. And then the way we ended, it's still a chapter of my life that I'm like, all I can chalk it up to is I was faithful. But it was not how I thought it would have went out. I didn't get to pass the baton to someone else that was going to be taking it to the next level. I had to look these people in the eyes and say, I feel like God is bringing this journey to an end. I would love to help y'all find another church family to connect with. And it was very hard to not feel like, bro, you failed miserably, dog.
I think there's a scary thing with dreams. People say follow your dreams.
Yeah.
That is bad advice. We don't follow dreams. We follow only one name.
Yeah.
That's it. My life is dedicated to following and chasing hard after Jesus, period.
Yeah.
He's amazing in that he gives me dreams and he has dreams for me and he concocts these plans that are higher than, but at the end of the day, I have to be okay with not understanding it.
Yeah.
And it's, because here's the thing, I don't want people hearing, and I love the way you even shared that now, because I don't want people hearing, yo, there's gonna be a day where it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't owe me that, bro.
Yeah, he doesn't.
He doesn't owe me that. What he has done is all that, and he didn't even owe that. That's the beauty of grace.
Yeah.
He laid down his life. So the fact that you are still faithful when the dream that you had a picture of explodes.
Yeah.
The fact that you're still faithful and following after him means you're following after the right name.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy because I think it shifted. It was probably a couple years ago because 2015 was the last year. 13 to 14, 15. Yeah, so 2015 of October was around when we laid it down. Thankfully, I felt like the Lord guarded my heart through that whole process. And now I feel like my stance is, one, thank God I stayed faithful.
Yeah.
Two, I would rather be like Peter, get off the boat and get saturated in water and had stepped out in faith than to remain safe on the boat and be dry.
Yeah.
Like I would rather, even moving my life forward, I would rather know I had the faith to get out of the boat and venture out there into the unknown than to remain safe, dry with everyone else, but never step out.
Yeah.
And it's only by the grace of God that I think he really guided my heart and my picture of myself, and to realize, bro, it's not even about me. But I'm so grateful you chose to use that season for me to grow, for me to see you provide things that I just never had. I never had the backing before to provide. So,
and not that it justifies it all, but
No.
I'm just going to tell you, your season has blessed the season we're currently in. So I've said this publicly from the stage, so I'm not saying this out of pocket. You've heard me say this. I don't know. I can't imagine Center City without you in Maryland. And it's not just the heart that you bring, which is amazing. It's not just the family that you bring and the attitude of family that you bring, which is amazing. It's not just your leadership, but it's so much of the experience that you pulled from that season that I lean into and draw from, and that I see in you and that you lean into and draw from. So not, again, that it makes sense because he doesn't owe us that.
Yeah.
But the simple fact that we can look back and still be amazed at God's hand, I don't know if we would be here if it wasn't for that season.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad that you're here.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. Like, I think walking in faith in those seasons, pursuing dreams, I think it builds our faith to prepare us for what's next. Because what's next probably would have petrified us and terrified us and paralyzed us had we not went through the season before. So, man, I'm so grateful for everything the Lord has allowed me to be a part of, the ups and the downs, the victories and what I sometimes feel like are losses. Because it's kind of like the consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds. Sounds great.
Yeah.
When you're facing the trials, you hate it. You hate everything. And
Well,
you're frustrated.
and I know we're probably running late on time here, so Dom's gonna have to edit something out. But what do you say to the 35-year-old who's waking up this morning to the idea that their dream just exploded?
Yeah. Are they a believer?
Oh, yeah.
I would just remind them, man, what the goal is. The goal is always Jesus.
Come on.
The goal is always Jesus. And I think when you live that way, we win.
Absolutely.
We win. I think the way God calls us to live, the way he calls us to dream, and the way he calls us to love has to be different than everyone else around us. So on that note, I just want to encourage you guys, dream those dreams that God has placed inside of you. Live the life that he has called you to and love the way he loves you. Grace and peace.